Welcome to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms. A few weeks back, you heard part one of the show we taped at the 20th Annual Investor Summit. This week, part two with some amazing faculty members in a live studio audience. Today on the Real Estate Guys radio program.
If you love real estate and have always wanted to own your own business, listen up. The Real Estate Guys and their panel of experts want to teach you how to go full-time fast in the real estate syndication business. These next few years may go down in history as one of the best times ever to acquire investment real estate. There are deals everywhere if you know where to look and how to assemble the resources. The Secrets of Successful Syndication seminar will show you how to make big money doing big deals from a team of experts that have syndicated projects totaling more than $1 billion. Don't wait for someone to give you a raise or create a job for you. Attend the Secrets of Successful Syndication and learn how to build a team, raise capital, find deals, and make full-time money in 6 months or less. Go to realestateguysradio.com and click on events. All the big players use syndication as a way to diversify risk, optimize profits, and earn big money. You can too. Go to realestateguysradio.com and click on events.
Welcome to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms, and in the co-pilot seat, it is our financial strategist co-host, Russell Gray.
Hey, Robert.
We had an amazing time at the 20th Annual Investor Summit a few weeks ago. You heard the show that was part one. Today, it's part two. We had so many faculty and so many great ideas to share with you. We needed 2 shows to do it.
Yeah, well, that's not unusual because we have so many great people and so many things they have to say. In fact, in this particular summit, we ended up having, I think, 3 pretty big name faculty members that we didn't even announce. You know, we sold out completely, and then we had these 3 big people, one of whom has never been with us before, and she's almost a household name if you pay any attention to financial news. And so, you know, they all have a lot to say, and so that's exciting. But of course, there was things going on in between, so we couldn't do the 2 shows back to back, so we had to put a little bit of a buffer in between. But we're back, and I think today's recaps from these faculty members is well worth listening to.
So part of the reason to bring that up is that these segments were recorded back in June, so to the degree that there were any timely comments made, you can take that into consideration. And the second thing I think is great news, which is before we're done today, we've got the complete details for the 21st Annual Investor Summit, which we didn't really have before. So before we're done, we'll share with you, in case you want to come with us next time, all those details. But your mission today is to just hear from some of these amazing people and glean as many of the golden nuggets as you possibly can as we bring to you part 2 of the 20th Annual Investor Summit on the Real Estate Guys radio program.
Hey, I'm Jim Grant. I'm the editor and indeed the founder of Grant's Interest Rate Observer, and you, ladies and gentlemen, you lucky people, are listening to the Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the 20th Annual Investor Summit on Sam with a live studio audience. It's week number 2. We feel like we've been here 2 weeks, but so many amazing faculty members. 2 weeks to get them to you. Last week we got a great show, and this week, let's say hello to a gentleman who is here for his 10th time, the Rich Dad Advisor for Real Estate, Ken McElroy. Kenny, welcome back.
Thank you. It's awesome. Always fun.
You know, you just came off your big event, you know, more than 1,000 people, and you came down here, and your brain must be exploding.
Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah. So what's your take? We've been talking broader picture economics. There's all kinds of stuff. Chris Martinson scared the heck out of us. And then, you know, so did George and Danielle Dimartino booth today. As a real estate guy, what say you?
First of all, I was talking to somebody a minute ago, and we're all kind of getting into position. I mean, we've been doing this for so long. We've been studying this stuff for so long. And while maybe not all of us want to be in the exact position we're in a much better position than when we started. And so that's how I see this, is bringing people together that help us get into position.
Love that, right? The more times you've been, probably the better position you are. Now, a lot of new folks haven't been to the summit before. More than half of the audience hasn't been here. You've been 10 times. How do you navigate all this incredible information and then turn it into something you can do when you leave?
Well, first of all, I think that you got to come in with an open mind. So that's the first thing. I think a lot of times people are pretty biased about what they're investing in or the company they're raising capital for or whatever. And I think you got to step back from it all the time and take a look at the bigger picture and not be so biased. That's the first thing. And then make adjustments, because if you're raising capital, that's a serious responsibility. You have to do that for the people that you're investing their money for. So that's the way I look at these. That's why I come to all these, and that's why I'll continue to come.
Well, this is such an interesting point, because when you just invest in your own account, hey, if you get the market wrong, if you get the timing wrong, hopefully you get the feedback and you learn. But when you take on that added responsibility of someone else's hard-earned money, now you really got to be careful.
It scares me more than my own. I got to be honest. It's the way you should think.
Yeah, for sure. So a lot about what's happening with interest rates. That's going to affect real estate. Take us through that in terms of existing portfolio, and then how you guys are approaching debt and anything new you're going to acquire.
Well, we've been talking about fixed rate debt for a couple of years. It's not new that this is all happening. I don't know how many shows I've done on it. Fix your debt, fix your debt, fix your debt, fix your debt. This is coming. You cannot dump this much money into the hands of the people and not have inflationary times, and we're creating asset bubbles, all the things that we're learning here. I've been talking about a long time. The cost of money's up and the price of real estate's going to go down. That's a fact. So it's just, if you're using leverage, then that's going to be a component of the buy, and you have to calculate that in. And I think that we are already seeing sellers are going to have to adjust their expectations on what they're selling.
Big hand for Kenny McElroy. Back with us again, many years. She graces our stage, and we're thrilled to have her. This is Kim Kiyosaki. Welcome back, Kim.
Thank you, Robert. I love being here. When you said, would you come back? I'm like, this is like home for me. And so many friends, so many family, feels like family here. And I get to hang out and learn from all these incredible people. So it's a highlight of my year.
A big part of what you guys do at the Rich Dad organization is education, looking forward. Now you take these big ideas and have to bring that down to Main Street with people playing the cash flow game and with reading books. Take us through that part of the challenge ahead to be able to continue to educate.
Yeah, that's a great point, Robert, because when we started the Rich Dad Company, we had no idea that it was going to come down to where we are today. We knew there were going to be changes. We knew there was going to be, at some point, the markets were going to turn. There was going to be a recession at some point. But the cool thing is that because people, and especially one of the things during COVID, when COVID hit, we had so many people come to us and say, because we've followed the principles, because we've taken the information and put it into action, which is the key, putting it into action and doing it, we're okay. And I think that's one of the things here at the Real Estate Guys Summit is we've been doing this, we've been preparing for this, as Kenny said, for so many years. And you guys have been preparing for this for so many years that because of all of this education, we're in a much better place.
This is our biggest summit yet, over 280 people. We sold out 13 weeks ago. That's the earliest we've ever sold out. And I don't think that's because of us. I think that's because what's happening. People are taking it serious. They do want to get around folks that are not just cursory in their knowledge of real estate. We've got some strong folks here for sure. But we also have 30 young adults. And yesterday you had a chance to address them. And that was maybe one of the highlights of the week.
It was. And one of the questions you asked and Russell asked, if you were a 21-year-old today, what would you be telling yourself? And I was so proud to see so many young people here today and at this event because they have such an advantage going forward in the future. I don't know many young people today who have this education, who have this opportunity to be here to learn from all of these people, to learn about the economy, talk macroeconomics. I mean, for me, a lot of this was over my head, but it also inspires me to go, I need to find out what this means. I need to find out what this means. And to Kenny's point about being open-minded, especially when they're young kids here and they've got great mentors. For me, if there's any shortcut at all to success, be it business success, be it investing success, is to have great mentors. And these kids have some great mentors here, really great mentors.
Let's give her a hand. That's Kim Kiyosaki. And for those of you that aren't in the Young Investors program, but you met a cool young investor this week, let us know about that. You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program at the 20th Annual Investors Summit on Sand.
Live nationwide, you're listening to the Real Estate Guys. Find out more at realestateguysradio.com.
Hey everybody, Brad Sumrock here, and I'm so excited about our upcoming 5th annual Apartment Investor National Conference, AIM-NatCon. This event is going to be September 30th through October 2nd in Dallas, Texas. And we have a great lineup of some incredible speakers. We've already announced Jesse Itzler, Ed Milet, Robert Helms, Tom Wheelwright, and so many more. This event is not just for people that are already doing apartments, but it's for anybody that wants to get started with apartments. Maybe you're doing smaller deals. Maybe you're a business owner and you're paying too much tax and you're curious about how you could reduce your tax. There will be hundreds and hundreds of people there, and this is the one event remaining in 2022 that you absolutely need to be at.
Join the Apartment King, Brad Sumrock, at the 5th Annual Apartment Investor Mastery National Conference, September 30th to August 2nd. Get all the details by sending an email to aimnatcon@realestateguysradio.com. aimnatcon@realestateguysradio.com. And I'll see you there.
Hi, this is Kendra Todd, winner of The Apprentice, and you're listening to The Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program in Ambergris Caye Belize. It's a live studio audience. This is the 20th time we've done this, and oh my goodness, the faculty keeps growing. First, let's say hello to a gentleman who is making his second appearance at the Investors Summit after joining us last year. He's the rebel capitalist, George Gammon. George, welcome back. What say you?
Oh, it's fantastic to be here. I've really been looking forward to this for a very long time. You said it best when you were talking about when I first got here last year. I said this really isn't an event, it's a family reunion. And so thank you for welcoming me into the family, and thank you for inviting me back.
Absolutely. It's just so good to get folks together that are anxious to learn. And we do it in a pretty paradise place so you can have some fun. But mostly we've been working really hard. And you took us through a thought process the first day. George came with a couple of different presentations. He said, which one should I do? And the answer was both. But share with us some of the big takeaways that you presented here.
Well, the first presentation, I wanted to go over how the global monetary system, in my opinion, broke in 2007, and it's never been fixed. And I did that with a chart of bank reserves. And one of the key points was in 1987, the amount of bank reserves in the system on the Fed's balance sheet or on the commercial bank's balance sheet was $60 billion with a B. In 2007, it was 40. So $20 billion less. And during that same time frame, M2 money supply went from 2.7 trillion to 7.5, and global GDP growth exploded. So how did that happen if the amount of bank reserves on the Fed's balance sheet decreased by $20 billion? And the answer is the commercial banks' balance sheets in the Eurodollar system. And then what happened in 2007 is we saw the amount of reserves explode higher, up to 3 trillion, and go down a little bit and then exceed $4 trillion. So to me, when I look at that one chart, it just shows that the Fed's balance sheet is now doing what the commercial balance sheets or the commercial banks' balance sheets had been doing pretty much since the 1950s. So you go from FedEx running the global monetary system to DMV. And I think that's why you've seen global growth and growth in the United States decrease during 2008 or since 2008. And I think that's why it will continue to decrease in the future. Because one thing that's been consistent with all the speakers is that the more monetary heroin you give the economy, the more dependency on that monetary heroin the economy has. And therefore, every time we have one of these crisis situations, the probability is very high. The Fed's balance sheet increases, which means the DMV is taking over a larger and larger percentage of the global monetary system and that liquidity, and therefore the efficiency goes down.
I think one of the paradigms that you broke for folks, and people that have been many times kind of understand this, but the idea that a bank makes a loan to a real estate investor doesn't mean they have that money sitting somewhere.
No. In fact, in that presentation that I went over, I showed how banks in the Eurodollar system can create dollars starting with no dollars and without even any bank reserves denominated in dollars. And so it's a system that sprung up as a result of Bretton Woods in 1944 because basically what happened, and Keynes predicted this, and so did Triffin to a certain degree, where the global economy to grow, they would need those dollars and they wouldn't have them, so they would have to come up with a free market system to produce them out of thin air. And that's exactly what they did. And so it may be controversial, but I'm of the opinion that there's nothing that really constrains the commercial bank's balance sheets. They can create as much as, or as many dollars or as few dollars as they choose. It doesn't really have to do with the Fed's balance sheet. And I think to a certain degree, they can create as much collateral as they need as well. So we've moved from a system that, where they can create their own money, then they create their own collateral. So you ask yourself, if there's nothing constraining the bank's balance sheet, technically, then why hasn't it exploded higher, or what makes it go up and down? And the bottom line is just trust and faith in the overall system.
Let's give him a hand. That's George Gammon, ladies and gentlemen. It is a family reunion, which is why we have folks coming back 5 years, 10 years, 16 years, 20 years. But one of my favorite things is when we have a brand new Summit faculty member here for the first time. It's Danielle Dimartino Booth. Now, Danielle, the timing was really interesting with the FOMC meeting happening this week, and you were trying to monitor a bunch of stuff while you're here in Belize. The internet's not working. You're doing major interviews. Tell us about the craziness this week.
Well, it has been kind of amazing to be disconnected from the world that as I would have known it when all of this is going on in the background. I mean, it's not every day that you wake up and crypto's melting, junk is melting, stocks are melting. There's a massive leak to the media that causes the Fed to change course from 50 basis points to 75 basis points, and then it comes true. So, the only thing that's normal this week is that the stock market initially celebrated the Powell press conference, and then it changed its mind the next day. So I'm starting to call it the hangover day, the day after the FOMC, when markets are like, oh, I didn't realize that this was going to be the outcome. And that's kind of where we are, because we're in one of what George describes as we're kind of on the downside right now.
You know, one of the things we appreciate about you, you cover a lot, but also you focus on housing, you focus on real estate more than a lot of people that do similar work. And today you shared with us just some of the signs of how close we are to that top. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty clear. Take us through some of that.
First of all, I think, and this is something I mentioned a few days ago, we have to be mindful of compression, of compression like in terms of time. Because we were 2 cycles ago was a 10-year expansion. Last cycle was a 12-year expansion. This cycle's ending inside of 2 years. So I think when it comes to real estate, because it tends to go with a long lead time and a long lag time, what you're going to have to appreciate is that things are going to be moving at the equivalent of lightning speed right now, and that's what we're seeing. We've seen a full reversal in the National Association of Home Builders. I've never seen a reversal of this magnitude. Prospective home buyer traffic contracted in the latest month. That's extraordinary. We're seeing single-family permits pull back. That was this morning. But these things are happening so very quickly because of the sheer amount of stimulus that was injected into the system and then pulled back. And so there's a boomerang effect, and people are not accustomed, I'm not accustomed in my lifetime to seeing cycles wind up and unwind as quickly as they are. So I think that is, believe it or not, going to apply to real estate. That's why when I say have dry powder, have dry powder pretty soon. Because again, banks have been pretending and extending on a lot of these bad loans since the pandemic hit. And now the time is finally coming due. They won't be able to do that through a second recession.
And I think it goes back to that Lenin quote that I've been using so much, where decades go by where nothing happens, and then there's weeks that go by where decades happen.
And that's exactly where we are.
You know, Danielle, last time we had you on the show, we talked about something you brought up today, and I think this is important for real estate investors. There's different sources, and you mentioned the National Association of Realtors, and they're all looking at this deficit we have. We don't have enough houses. But you've shared some interesting information with us privately on the show, and today, talk about the difference in those estimates.
Well, the estimates that are calling for millions and millions of homes deficit, they're only looking at the stock of the United States population. They're not looking at the growth rate of the United States population. And that's why if there's one thing that you take away from today, it's that when baby boomers were entering their prime buying years, when baby boomers were going into their prime earning years, the growth rate of that generation was 3 times the level of what it is today for the millennials at the same stage in their life cycle. So the same 5-year period that they're entering, their growth rate's 1.2%, about 0.6 million households a year. That is not a lot of homes that need to be built versus 4.5% growth rate of the baby boomers back when they were entering their prime buying years. And you needed millions of homes per year. And that is, I think, the disservice that the National Association of Realtors and others do, is that they're only looking at the size of the population, not the rate at which it is growing or not growing, at a time when we're building more homes and there's more multifamily coming online than any time since 1973. So we're going to, believe it or not, Lawrence Yun is going to have to come up with a whole new narrative, because we're going to be talking about an oversupply problem in a year's time, which people find very hard to wrap their heads around, because we've had generations of a housing deficit, and that is flipping.
If you had a wake-up call because of that one slide, by applause. And she had a lot of slides, right? But the idea that if you just look at, okay, there's more households, but they got to go to work to pay the rent, and then when the ones that are actually gainfully employed or represent less, right? So we got to think differently about this stuff. Now, how many of you had a chance to read this book, Fed Up by Danielle, right? Excellent. You were inside at the Federal Reserve for 9 years. It's an amazing story. It's more like a storybook story as you go along and you name names, and it's more entertaining than I thought it would be. But from where you sit, what is changing? What needs to change? You know, George says end the Fed. You don't really say end the Fed.
I've never advocated for ending the Fed, because I always look at, I like to think that we're going to stay a developed nation in the United States. So when you see what China has done to intellectual property, you can only imagine what's going to happen to our financial system if nobody's watching it, if nobody's supervising it, nobody's regulating it. Now, that said, spoiler alert for those who've not gotten to the end of the book, I do advocate for taking the Federal Reserve all the way down to the studs. And I mean these studs. The 1913 Federal Reserve Act required that the president choose members of the board of the Federal Reserve Board from a diverse geographies, thoughts, industries. And what do we have? We have a bunch of MIT PhDs in economics. So we've gone the opposite direction of the spirit of the original Federal Reserve Act. We need people who are actually on the receiving end of monetary policy to be making monetary policy, not people who theoretically pop something into a model and out comes policy when they're living on a public pension for the rest of their lives. They don't have to worry about the rate on their savings account being 0, because they've got their retirement completely set up. They're bureaucrats. So, but we need the right people at the Federal Reserve. I was hoping that Jay Powell was going to be the right person, because he's the first since Volcker who's not a PhD in economics. He actually worked in the real world. He understands how financial markets work, how they operate, but he learned that one man was not big enough to change the system when he saw the whites of the eyes of the corporate bond market in 2018, and he had to pivot.
She's the CEO and editor of Quill Intelligence. How about a hand for Danielle Dimartino both? You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. More when we come back from beautiful Belize. I'm your host, Robert Helms.
Real estate investment advice right in your mailbox. Sign up for the free Real Estate Guys newsletter at realestateguysradio.com.
Hey, it's Robert Helms. Thanks so much for listening to the show today. I want to personally invite you to come see an amazing real estate market that combines excellent cash flow, offshore diversification, and what we affectionately call lifestyle investing. Come join me from August 26th to 29th in the beautiful country of Belize. The Real Estate Guys have been bringing investors to Belize for more than 15 years now, and our discovery trip is designed to show you the market like nobody else can. Sure, Belize is breathtakingly beautiful, the people are wonderful, and wait till you taste the food. But the real opportunity is the real estate investment potential. Demand for offshore real estate has skyrocketed since the coronavirus shutdown, and with retirees looking for lifestyle, the work-from-home workforce able to be productive from afar, and tourism coming back strong, now may be the perfect time to consider Belize as a place to diversify risk in your investment portfolio. There's all types of opportunity in Belize when it comes to real estate investing, including both long and short-term rentals, commercial and retail triple net properties, business opportunities, land acquisition, development, agriculture, and more. And as the only country in Latin America with English as its official language, it's easy to understand the law. Property rights are strong, and real estate contracts are in English. And at Ambergris Caye, a unique situation exists where demand for rentals continues to outstrip supply, creating a compelling environment for investors. So come see for yourself. Join me in August in Ambergris Caye, Belize as we study the market, learn about the sustainable drivers, and tour lots of beautiful real estate. And like all of our field trips, there are no properties for sale during the weekend. Rather, you'll meet lots of local providers that will help educate you about the market so that you can follow up with them after the trip if the market is interesting to you. You've heard about Belize and the Real Estate Guys for all these years. Now come see what all the excitement is about. Plus, we'll have lots of time over meals and activities to talk about all things real estate. To get the details, go to the website at realestateguysradio.com and click on events where you'll find the Belize Discovery Trip. Once you register, you'll get information about our group hotel rates as well as travel details. So join me in Belize, August 26th to 29th. It's a beautiful country with lots of amazing possibilities, and the only thing missing is you. Go to realestateguysradio.com under events, and I look forward to seeing you in beautiful Belize.
Hi, this is Steve Forbes. You're listening to The Real Estate Guys. Have fun. You'll learn something.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. Thanks for tuning into the show. Hey, if you don't want to wait till next year's Investors Summit, then come on out to the New Orleans Investment Conference, the longest running investment conference in the world. It's the 48th year. It happens in the middle of October. We're going, and you should go with us, not only because you're going to hear from an all-star faculty. Many of the people that are on the show today will be there, but the big thing that happens the Friday night of New Orleans Investment Conference is the Real Estate Guys private invite party. And if you want to be invited, all you have to do is send an email to neworleans at realestateguysradio.com. New Orleans at realestateguysradio.com. It'll tell you how to sign up for the conference, who some of the speakers are, and you'll be invited to our private cocktail party. Send an email to neworleans at realestateguysradio.com. It's part 2 of the 2022 Investors Summit. Before we get back to some more great interviews, it's time to play Real Estate Trivia. That's your chance to win a prize by knowing today's Real Estate Trivia question. As soon as you hear the question and think you know the answer, send your best guess to trivia at realestateguysradio.com. Trivia at realestateguysradio.com. Include your name, the answer, and your physical mailing address, because if you're the first to get it right, you just heard from Kim Kiyosaki. You're going to get her awesome book, Rich Woman, autographed by Kim. Yep, an autographed copy of Rich Woman can be yours if you know today's real estate trivia question. Last week on the show, we had Rich Dad advisor Tom Wheelwright talking about his awesome new book, The Win-Win Wealth Strategy, and we asked this: according to a study out this month, which U.S. state is the unfriendliest? Yes, in August, there was a study that came out about the friendliest and unfriendliest states, and the number one unfriendly state, New Mexico. The state performed poorly in several areas, including having the highest percentage of the population living in poverty, the lowest income growth, and the highest crime rate. Sorry, New Mexico. Here's our real estate trivia question for this week. Where is the world's tallest living tree? Yep, of all the trees in the world, there's one still alive that's the tallest. Where is it? On what piece of real estate does it exist? All we need is the city, country, that kind of thing. If you know or want to guess, send your best guess to trivia@realestateguysradio.com. Trivia@realestateguysradio.com. Give us your name, your guess, and your mailing address. First person that gets it right, if someone does, gets a copy of Rich Woman, autographed by Kim Kiyosaki. That's today's real estate trivia question. It's the 20th Annual Investor Summit. We've been at this for a long, long time, just listening to these amazing interviews. I mean, Danielle Dimartino Booth, wow. George Gammon, brilliant. Ken McElroy, the ultimate real estate guy. Kim Kiyosaki, and we've got more coming. Russ, this is the kind of event that can change your life.
Well, I think especially right now, we've talked over the years, you and I've been through a lot. We started this thing way back before the financial crisis, and real estate was all the rage, all kinds of money coming out of the .com and moving into this real estate area, and equity was happening everywhere, and it just looked like a party that would never end. And then 2008 came, and it was a train wreck. And of course, we've talked about this on this show many, many times about how that was a wake-up call for us to make sure that we were hanging around other people that weren't in the real estate echo chamber, that saw a much bigger picture, because the things and shenanigans that go on at Wall Street do roll downhill onto Main Street. And we experienced that firsthand as did a lot of real estate investors back then. And so that really created a shift at our 10th anniversary. We brought in the entire Rich Dad crew, Robert Kiyosaki. We brought in G. Edward Griffin, author of The Creature from Jekyll Island. It really changed the caliber of the event. Following year, we brought in Peter Schiff for the first time, Mark Skousen, one of the top most influential economists in the world, living economists in the world, brought him in, Bob Murphy. So we had 3 economists on that 2013 summit. And of course, we were part of going through this whole recovery process where the everything bubble was being inflated, and we had interest rates at 0 and all these Fed interventions. Now, this last year in June of 2022, we're looking at stagflation, maybe for the very first time, inflation that we haven't seen in ages, a Fed that is attempting to raise interest rates aggressively for the first time, probably in a lot of people's investing lifetime. And so the world is changing, not to mention the whole COVID lockdown, and that is not over. The lockdowns may be over, but the ramifications of the disruptions to the supply chain, the impact on pricing and labor and markets and just the way people live and how they work and where they work, all of these things have had direct ramifications. How do you keep up on all this? You get in a room full of people like this that are paying attention from a lot of different angles, and you talk to a bunch of other investors who are vested in the markets just like you are, and work it out. And it takes a week, and it's a ton of fun, and we learn a lot.
The last 2 weekends, I've been in 2 different parts of the world talking with folks who were on the summit, happened to be at those events. And I'll tell you, the recurring theme is, wow, we feel so much more prepared than the rest of the world because of this time together. And on the show today and the one a few weeks ago, I mean, there's nearly an hour and a half of the ideas, but can you imagine 9 days worth of the ideas? So we have decided that the 21st Annual Investor Summit will be back in beautiful Ambergris Caye Belize from June 6th through the 14th, a little earlier than we've done the last couple of years, spreading over 1 weekend instead of 2 weekends. But the dates are set, the location is set. If you're interested in getting on the advanced notice list, all you have to do is send an email to summit@realestateguysradio.com, summit@realestateguysradio.com. Registration is not open yet. However, we did invite the folks at this year's event to register, to re-up on the spot, and over 150 of them did. So the downside to doing it at the same place as we did this year, as beautiful and awesome as it is that there's no room to increase the capacity. So when we sell out, we're going to sell out, and there's less than 100 seats right now. So if you're serious about it, it's pretty simple. Just get on the list, the advanced notice list. As soon as we open it up, which should be in the next few weeks, we're not talking months from now, in the next few weeks, you'll get an email. Open it quickly, take a look, make your decision, and get signed up. We hope that you'll join us there. In the meantime, when we come back, you'll hear from some more awesome faculty members from this year's Investor Summit on the Real Estate Guys radio program.
Hi, this is Dennis Waitley, and you're listening to the Real Estate Guys.
In uncertain times like this, it's great to know there are two things you can always count on: high demand for affordable single-family homes to live in, and Terry Kerr's amazing Memphis team at Mid-South Home Buyers to find, fix, and manage the next addition to your recession-resistant real estate portfolio. The Memphis market is logistics and distribution dynamo with an economic engine that's essential to moving goods and critical supplies all over the United States. Quality rehab, proven profitable property management, affordable rents, and solid ROI make turnkey property investing through Terry's team a dream when it matters most. To learn more about Memphis and Mid-South Home Buyers, send an email to midsouth@realestateguysradio.com. That's midsouth@realestateguysradio.com. The Real Estate Guys are throwing a party and you're invited. Join us live at the New Orleans Investment Conference, October 12th through 15th. Now in its 48th year, it's the nation's longest-running investment conference and features some of the biggest names in economics and investing, including Jim Rickards, Danielle Dimartino Booth, Rick Rule, Doug Casey, James Grant, and George Gammon. And of course, the Real Estate Guys are speaking again this year, plus we're hosting an awesome party one of the evenings with some very special guests. So make plans today to join the Real Estate Guys at the New Orleans Investment Conference. With all that's going on in the world, no serious investor can afford to miss it. Send an email to neworleans@realestateguysradio.com and we'll get you all the details. That's neworleans@realestateguysradio.com.
Hello, this is Jim Rogers. We're listening to the Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. We are in beautiful Ambergris Caye Belize for the 20th Annual Investor Summit. If you didn't hear last week's show, go back and hear that because we had some amazing folks. Let's say hello to a gentleman who runs his own conference and makes time to come to ours every year. He's the editor of the Gold Newsletter. Welcome, Brien Lundin. Brien, great to have you back.
Great to be here as always. Second best event of the end of the year. No, really, it is unique. It's a special place, special time, special people, and I hope no one who is here takes this for granted because this doesn't happen everywhere.
It's fun today. We started with a session on cryptocurrency and blockchain, followed by a session on gold. And Brien came into the room before we started and said, now you crypto people aren't going to be mean to gold, are you? But they weren't. It was great. So let's talk about the metals. It's an interesting time to be watching every index, every investment, but gold and silver have been fun to watch this last few weeks.
They have, and you know, a lot of people look at it and say, why isn't gold a couple $100 higher? These are mostly people who own gold and are really hurting and wondering, you know, that they should be making a whole lot of money with inflation where it is today. But if you look at it on a relative basis, gold has been doing its job. It's preserving wealth. You have stock market crashing on a very frequent basis. But one of the things we've watched is that as we've had these repeated crashes and sell-offs, liquidity events in the stock market, gold has been hurt progressively less. And in fact, you know, the last couple of times or a few times, gold has actually risen when the stock market has crashed. So I think that that's a case of the speculators and the hedge funds and the like don't have any more gold to sell. So now you have smart money moving in and realizing that when you have 8.5% inflation and none of those trends looking good, you really want to own some gold.
Now, there are folks, of course, in the room that participate in physical ownership of gold. You also are a big follower, if you will, maybe even a trendsetter when it comes to what happens before it's gold that I can put in my pocket, and that is the mining stocks, the companies that do royalties. Speak to that part of the industry and how that might be different with what's happening.
Yeah, it is different. If you want to, well, if you're worried about where the dollar's going, then you want to own physical gold as insurance for your wealth. But beyond that, if you look at the macro picture and you believe in that macro picture, and you think it's going to be bullish for gold, which I do, and I think a lot of people do, then you can leverage that trend on the investment end of your assets by buying mining stocks, which typically leverage the moves in gold. One thing to watch these days, though, is that we have energy costs rising, so the profit margins for big miners are compressing literally as we speak. So we may not have the outperformance in that sector, at least on the producer end of it, that we have historically come to expect.
Now, we think about price of the metals, but you showed us a lot of charts today that talk about other things like volume and who's buying and when. What are the things you watch besides just where the price is going?
Yeah, I'm not much of a huge technical analyst. I'm not the guy you want to go to for that, but there are a few things that I've watched consistently over really a few decades in the business that have pinpointed key turning points in the market. And one of these is a stochastic, a momentum indicator for gold and silver that looks to be about bottoming out right now. So what we're seeing is a typical spot in that indicator where you expect a turnaround to the upside. It may not be tomorrow, it may not be next week, but it's probably within a few weeks or a month or so.
Hey, coming up, it is the 48th annual New Orleans Investment Conference. We're going to be there. If you're coming, a round of applause. A lot of these folks will be there. What do we have to look forward to in New Orleans this year?
Well, we have to look forward to you emceeing, of course.
That's always something to look forward to.
And that's an example of what I do. You know, if I have one talent or ability, I know talent and ability. And I know to find the best people. And that's always been our goal and job with the New Orleans Conference, find the best thinkers, best presenters out there, and we do it. And if you enjoyed last year, we've got virtually all of those speakers coming back. Danielle Dimartino Booth, George Gammon, Brent Johnson, Peter Bookvar, James Grant, goes on and on and on. Just a star-studded lineup of speakers and experts.
You know, I think it says a lot when you get the same speakers that come back year after year. It's frankly one of the challenges of the summit is that everyone wants to come back. It doesn't leave that much room for new faculty, but I think we're okay with that. How about a hand for Brien Lundin? Speaking of returning faculty, he shared a bunch of awesome ideas and then had a little idea he ran by me before he started. I said, let's go with it, and the results we'll talk about. Let's say hi to Mr. Kyle Wilson. Kyle, great having you back.
Hey, great being back. What an amazing group. You know, Jim Rohn would always say, who you spend time with matters. And that's one of the benefits of being around these awesome people.
You know, you spent 18 years in a partnership with Mr. Jim Rohn, and just an extraordinary man in so many ways. We're still learning lessons every day. At your presentation, you shared some of those lessons, but also some of the lessons you've learned from a lot of your mentors over the years. What are some big takeaways?
Well, obviously, you know, you can read a book, right? But when you spend time with people, when you go through scenarios and situations, and you get to pivot, right? So some of those great lessons that have come from Brian Tracy and Dennis Waitley, Les Brown, and of course Jim Rohn. And you know, there's almost too many to mention. But what's interesting, Robert, is you know, when you go through an experience and you look back, you say, hey, I've got a new concept, a new idea. And then I think of a Jim Rohn quote. It's like, oh, Jim had already said that. Jim had already gone through that. How many of you quote someone and it's almost like you feel it's your own? And I had this realization once. I was on Hal Elrod's podcast. I was sharing some Jim Rohn lessons. And he goes, oh my God, the book I wrote, which was Miracle Morning, he said, I feel like I stole all of Jim's stuff and I didn't even mean to.
Yeah, welcome to the club.
But here's the thing. Once you know, reading it's one thing, but then living it coming out the other end through your own experience makes it your own. And now it's your wisdom. And so people have discovered Jim Rohn through Robert Helms, through Robert's experiences. And so I think being able to reference the things that I go through and say, wow, Jim went through that too. And he tried to teach me that, you know, 20 years ago. I was just too young to learn it, but I get it now. And I'm able to connect those dots. And that probably happens with our parents and other influences, right? We see later, oh, that's what they meant. But we almost have to go through it.
One of the elements I wanted to talk to you about, now they've been a lot of years, is we learn in the classroom, but we also have a lot of great conversations. You're a master at that. Every night at dinner, you've got new people at your table. How has that part of the summit been this year?
Oh, that's been amazing because getting, again, we said it yesterday, everyone here is an expert in something. Everyone here is better at, you know, something than the rest of us. And then all of us are beginners too. And so getting to learn from everyone at the table, I think, is one of the funnest things. And that opportunity for us to get to know each other, I think that's been one of my favorite parts.
Speaking of opportunity, on the fly, you created an opportunity, and if you're okay talking about it, it shows so many great lessons. You manufactured something amazing out of nothing yesterday. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I was watching Russ and Steve do the bartering, and that was really, really cool. I'm like, how could I play with that? And the thought just hit me. Those little downloads, they'll hit you like in megaseconds, and then you have to kind of say, what was that? And listen, I could host some people at my house. We could talk marketing. I could do some coaching, strategy, and we'll just give it all away for a cool charity. And so I asked Robert, the Godfather, that was part of my presentation, was Bob Helms. So maybe half of that for the young adults, which is amazing what you guys have done with that scholarship. And then every book we do, we donate 100% of the launch profits to a charity. And so there's this pastor and his wife in Los Angeles that just do such selfless work, feeding people, clothing people. I've been with them since 2014. I thought, well, we'll do the other half there. And so I thought a little small, but I didn't mind being conservative. So I said, hey, we'll raise $20,000. So 4 people pay $5,000, come find me. Well, about 10 people came up really quick. And I said, how about we do it over 2 days? So we raised $50,000. So that's pretty cool.
That's pretty good. Let's give a hand for that. I love the fact that, especially for our young investors who think, well, how can you find money, raise money? There's no, when you don't have any money, it doesn't seem like there is any, but clearly there is. And we just really appreciate the generosity of everyone who did that. Yeah. I know that it's going to more than pay back by spending some time with this guy. How about a hand for Kyle Wilson? You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. More when we come back. I'm your host, Robert Helms, with a live studio audience.
Need help with your real estate investment portfolio? Check out the resources page at realestateguysradio.com.
Are you achieving everything you want in life? What if there was a time-tested way for you to get everything you've ever dreamed of? The most successful people in life set goals and keep themselves accountable. But how? The good news is that it's not rocket science. You too can learn the skills and unleash the motivation that will create success in your life. And now is the time. Hi, this is Robert Helms, and I'd like to personally invite you to attend Create Your Future, the 2023 Goals Retreat, January 6th through 8th in beautiful Lake Las Vegas, Nevada. This unique weekend event has been called phenomenal, inspirational, and life-changing by the thousands of people that have attended. Hear from some of them and find out more at realestateguysradio.com under events, or call 888-489-7723, extension 18. Get your life back on track, physically, spiritually, and financially. Attend the 2023 Goals Retreat on the first weekend of the new year. Click events at realestateguysradio.com to register. This is no dress rehearsal. Live the life you were meant to. Visit realestateguysradio.com or call 888-489-7723, extension 18 today.
Hey, ever wished you could go back in time and do some tax planning? Now you can, just like Marty McFly. Lucky for you, a brand new federal law just made this possible with an EQRP to get tax deductions and reduce your taxable income from last year, so you can use that tax savings to invest in real estate, Bitcoin, gold, even your own business. Whether you're a full-time investor, doctor, government employee, even if you have 5 or 50 employees, the EQRP works and is your secret weapon, and now it's retroactive. Hey, I'm Damian Lupo, and we have your solution. By the way, if you got bad advice and used an IRA for an apartment syndication, you are sitting on a U-bit time bomb. But don't worry, there's a solution, the EQRP. The EQRP company is ready to help you get control of your money, kill U-bit, and help you pay way less taxes. Want to learn more about this strategy? Send an email to eqrp@realestateguysradio.com for my special EQRP report. Paying tax or letting Wall Street suck you dry is dumb. Your first step is freeing your retirement money by sending an email to eqrp@realestateguysradio.com today.
Hey, this is John Asraf, and you are listening to The Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. Hey, we've got a live studio audience. Because we're at the 20th Annual Investor Summit. Man, it's been an amazing, amazing week. Let's say hello to a gentleman who first came in 2012 to the 10th Annual Investor Summit. It's Mr. Dave Zook. Welcome back, Dave.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. It's great to be back in the house.
Indeed. You know, so much is going on in the world. And after Danielle's presentation, you had a great question. Like, okay, there's a lot of stuff. What do we do? And that's really a big part of what we have to go figure out. After everything we've heard, what do we do?
Yeah, so I'm a firm believer of where there's great challenges, where there's disruption, where there's just problems everywhere. It's a great opportunity for capitalists to step up and solve those problems. I think it was Sepp, I'll steal it from Sepp, my buddy Sepp over here, that said capitalism is about solving problems. So I believe that where there's big problems in the marketplace, there's also going to be a great opportunity for us to step in and solve those problems.
Love that mindset, right? Lesser investors think if the market's going down, there's just nothing we can do, when quite the opposite. So you have an approach which is not to just be in a single market or a single asset class. You got to have a much wider palette of the things you invest in. Can you speak to that?
I love doing business with great partners. And so when I find an asset class, and many of you know my story about, where I was paying a lot of money in tax. And I'm going to share a little bit about this tomorrow, where, how I control or get myself to the point where I'm tax efficient. And it's not about making less money, and it's not about losing money, but it's about making more money and then taking asset classes that offset the tax liability on that income. And so when I find an asset class that does what I want it to do for me, oftentimes I'll invest in that asset class myself and create a relationship with the operators. If I really like doing business with those operators, I really like the asset class, it does what I want it to do for me, I can't help but share it. So I love doing business with great people. It's been a fun ride. We are, doing a lot of business in the ATM space. It's one of our core asset classes. I was an ATM investor for 4 years before I brought it to my investor base. I really, when I thought about syndication, I thought the only thing you could do is syndicate apartment buildings, because that's what everybody that I knew was doing. They were syndicating apartment buildings. So it never even crossed my mind that I would actually be a syndicator for an ATM machine. But I took it, I asked myself the question is like, does this work for me? It provides a lot of cash flow, provides a lot of depreciation, offset tax liability on my income. And so I took it to my investor group. We took that and grew that by a lot. And today we're one of the top 4 ATM operators in the country.
We talk a lot about syndication on the show. It's a big part of what the real estate guys represent because of the opportunity it creates, both for passive investors who want exposure to these kinds of bigger deals and for entrepreneurs looking to do more. We got a lot of folks in that room. Back in 2010, you weren't even much of a real estate guy, right? You had a tax problem, which is a big part of your story. But a few years later, we started talking about syndication. You got involved. And to date, Dave's raised more than $500 million. How about a hand for Dave Zook? Well, this has been extraordinary. My goodness, what a great week we've had. Russell Gray, 20 years. Can you even believe it?
Yeah, it's really remarkable when you think about it. And I can't claim credit for this because you and Paul came up with this in the middle of Landlord Boot Camp back in January of 2002. But we did our first investor summit later that year. And so we've been doing it for 20 years. The first 10 years, it was really all about us and us teaching and our group of advisors. And then what we realized after 2008, that it was probably a better idea to surround ourselves with smarter people. And I think one of the principles there is you want to get in a room full of the right people. And we never know what's going to happen. We just know that if we get in a room full of people or we put together a room of great people, great things are going to happen. I'm sitting here next to Dave Zook, and it's especially gratifying to me because he came here not to see us. He came here to see Robert Kiyosaki to find out how Robert Kiyosaki pays no taxes. But he discovered us. And then he discovered syndication. And then he literally changed his whole business model and plan and direction, and it's changed his life. But it takes a step further. Dave doesn't even know this, but I had dinner the other night with someone, and he said to me, I've become financially independent through investments that I've made. And those investments that he made through Dave and through a guy that Dave introduced to us. And so this is the ecosystem at work, where you bring people into an environment where they learn ideas and they meet people. And then they implement those ideas, and then they make a difference in their own lives. And then they take it to the next level, and they share what they've learned, and they make opportunities available to other people. And then that ripple effect, that pebble in the water. And so somehow, some way, you and I, Robert, and the Real Estate Guys team have been able to be that pebble in the water. We didn't know what was going to happen when we started doing this. We don't know what's going to grow out of what's happened on this summit. But we've learned to have confidence that when we go into the marketplace and we put ourselves out there and we do everything in our power to create and add value, that the right people will show up at the right time and good things are going to happen. So thank you to all of you who are sitting here in the studio audience today, and all of the people that have come before, and for those of you out there in the listening audience that are thinking about coming this year. We sold out 3 months in advance. We had 100 some odd people on the waiting list. It is really difficult to open up more spots. So when we open the registration up, you want to make sure that you register right away, and to make sure that you're among the first notified, be sure you get on the advance notice list. So send an email to summit@realestateguysradio.com or visit realestateguysradio.com and click on the button that says summit and get on the list, because if you're not in the room, we can't promise you if you're in the room that good things are going to happen, but I can promise you if you're not, nothing's going to happen.
Hey, big thanks to our incredible, amazing, awesome faculty, to all the summiteers, the Mahogany Bay Resort and Beach Club. Until next week, go out and make some equity happen.
This episode of the Real Estate Guys radio show is brought to you by Paradigm Life. Powerful cash management strategies using life insurance. Learn more at beyourbank.com. Mid-South Home Buyers. Low-cost, turnkey cash flow properties in Memphis, Tennessee. Corporate Direct. Asset protection strategies for real estate investors from attorney and Rich Dad advisor Garrett Sutton. Find these and other great companies under the Resources tab at realestateguysradio.com. To learn how you can expose your product or service to the Real Estate Guys audience, call 888-489-7723 extension 4. That's 888-489-7723 extension 4. Or use the feedback page at realestateguysradio.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week right here on the Real Estate Guys radio show.